At the Swiss Federal Laboratory for Material Testing and Research, known as EMPA, we receive products from all over the world for assessment. It is understood by the organizations which ask us to carry out this work that our assessment will not only be thorough but impartial. Our activities cover every kind of material and a wide variety of tests. For example, plastics are tested for their physical properties. Wooden pallets are subjected to conditions which represent rough handling. Paint pigments are aged by ultraviolet light to test their resistance to fading. A steel roof truss is stressed to determine its strength and stability. And another building material, a reinforcing bar, is loaded under tension to assess the weight it can hold before withdrawing from the concrete. Our research facilities also enable us to test the acoustic qualities of products. Whatever the requirement, we have the means of getting the answer. Not all the test work is necessarily inside the laboratory itself. On the road, we sometimes test car components, tires and engines, and the fuels and lubricants that go in them. One of these assignments involved a fleet of cars of different types on a test to assess the performance of a new engine oil. This was a lubricant developed for extended oil change periods. At EMPA, we are fortunate in having a department with all the necessary facilities for the critical assessment of lubricants. During the trials, the cars were left out of doors overnight in temperatures as low as -20 degrees centigrade. The trial fleet was a Volkswagen 1200, Mercedes 190, Opel Kapitän, Fiat 2300, Lancia Flavia, Alfa Romeo Giulia and a Ford Cortina. In daily stages of approximately 400 kilometers, each of the 7 new production cars was run for a total of 40,000 kilometers. The emphasis was on mixed driving conditions. We chose a route which would demand a realistic proportion of driving in low gear. This required high power output at low vehicle speed, giving rise to high engine temperatures. Other conditions were likely to cause cold sludging. The bonnets were opened to cool the engines as rapidly as possible during the twice daily half-hour stops and the main lunch break. The ability of the oil to safeguard against corrosion and wear was tested by cold starts. Under the exceptionally severe wintry road conditions, the daily average speed dropped to 40 kilometers per hour. The route followed by the cars went over stretches of open roads and through towns with frequent stops. During the trial, on each car, the oil change periods were double those laid down by the car manufacturers for normal oils. The minimum for the trial was 11,000 kilometers and the maximum 16,000. The Kingsley tachograph chart provided a record of daily mileage, speeds and stops. Consumption was checked by weighing all oil that was taken out of the engines or put into them, either for a complete fill or for topping up. Samples of used oil were taken and examined in the laboratory to determine the extent to which its condition had changed. Although the conditions were exceptionally severe, the trials went on continually for over 5 months. Warmer weather, driving conditions in general improved, but for part of the trial the cars had to go through dust and over rough roads. Only we at EMPA were allowed to open the sealed filler caps. This was done when oil was topped up or changed, and then we immediately replaced our seals. Towards the end of the road trial, the daily average speed increased to the scheduled 60 kilometers per hour. When the road trial was completed, the engines were dismantled. After the engines had been stripped down, we examined them for wear and cleanliness. Wear measurements were carried out at a room temperature of 20 degrees centigrade. Piston cleanliness was evaluated by an international test rating method. Individual reports on each engine were drawn up. The overall results are summarized by Professor Brunner, head of the Department of Organic Chemistry, Plastics and Lubricants at EMPA. At the completion of the test, the EMPA engine seals were broken, and on being stripped down, all the engines were found to be in good condition as regards cleanliness and wear. The oil analysis did not at any juncture indicate anomalies. The tests performed by EMPA as an impartial independent establishment on 7 different makes of cars showed that the oil change interval recommended by the car manufacturers can be doubled when using BP Viscostatic long life without there being any adverse effects.